Welcome back, everybody, to Strange Planet Podcast. And in recent news, we have more spineless activity done by Republicans. And as pathetic as it is, there is yet more time wasted on impeachments that continue to fail. And this time they tried to impeach our Homeland Security Secretary. And now Rook will give you the details on this.
Well, in recent news, Republicans have their impeachment sights set on someone other than Joe Biden through his son Hunter. They just tried to impeach our Homeland Security Secretary, Secretary Mayorkas. It failed, but only because Representative Al Green from Texas, he felt compelled to leave his hospital room after having surgery to remove a blockage in his intestines. He literally left the hospital in his hospital gown in a wheelchair and went to the House floor to cast his vote against impeaching Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas. You know, he cast the vote that made it a tie because Republicans were one ahead in terms of impeachment. It ended up losing by one vote. But he literally got out of his hospital bed after surgery, had his doctor accompany him to the House floor in a wheelchair, in his hospital gown, and cast this vote. And then now he's, back at the hospital for another few days of recovery. Like, how ridiculous is that? That Republicans would wait until, for the opportune moment when they think they can get this impeachment done, when a Democratic representative is hospitalized. And, Speaker Johnson is counting on this because he barely has the votes, and he thinks he has the votes now that he hears that Al Green, the representative from Texas, has emergency surgery. How fucking low is that he holds the vote then? And what courage and conviction Al Green has to get out of his hospital bed to serve the American people. I applaud him. I say fuck you to Mike Johnson.
Yeah, for real. And to Al Green, I say thank you for your service. You know what I mean? Because, that's sick. That really is, man. It's just wrong on so many ways. And they'll never hesitate once there's a cheap shot or something they think they can do to one up or own the libs or whatever their, agenda is, if they even have one. And they'll do it. It's pretty sickening. The whole thing really is.
It goes to show you, what level they won't sink to. They are so far beyond policymaking and doing things for the public that I'm surprised that their base doesn't see it. I mean, is this really about revenge politics now? For what?
Right?
Well, if you look at the politics of this, the reason the impeachment took place was because Republicans were accusing the Homeland Security Secretary of, not doing his job on the border. They bitched about the border. Oh, there's, all these illegal aliens coming in, and the Biden administration is just letting them do it. So they wanted to impeach him, right? Meanwhile, we have a bipartisan bill, border security bill, written by one of the most conservative members of Congress. He's a Republican. And you know what? Democrats have said, you know what? We give up. We'll do what you want. We'll have your, almost draconian border security bill that a lot of Democrats do not like. And Democrats are willing to do it, I guess, because border security has become, an election year issue, right? It always is, but it's an election year issue and a lot of people care about it. So Democrats are like, okay, we'll do this bill. Now it appears that this bill is not going to go forward because Republicans don't support it now.
You know why?
Because Donald Trump said, you know what? We're not going to do a border security bill while there's a Democrat in office because we're not going to let them take credit for that. Only when Donald Trump is president can we move forward on border security, even though he had 4 years to do it.
It's true. And 2 of which they had everything. You know
yeah, but
I mean?
that didn't matter to dictator Trump. He did shit that for border security, regardless of whether Congress went along with it. For instance, he shifted funds from the Department of Defense to build his wall, which
Never happened.
yeah, no, but I mean, he did.
I wonder where
shift
that money
funds.
went.
Well, it went to partially build his wall, I guess, but
Where'd the other half go?
well, I guess he didn't have enough funds.
Who knew?
If there's anything I could say about Donald Trump, about him being successful, is he's the king of like fleecing. He will fleece anything and everything. He fucking put the presidential seal on a cup and sold it at Trump Towers or wherever or wherever he's staying now in Florida.
Well, the other real reason why they're not okay with it is because what else would they have to run on if that was solved?
They don't have much.
Exactly. You know what I mean? So, like, say that they didn't go this way and say it was passed and they shut it down, just figuratively speaking. Republicans wouldn't be able to run on that now, could they? Right? So it's basically in order to block progress at this point. Not that it's new. It's common.
The fact that they want to highlight the one thing that Donald Trump was working on, but
and he wasn't doing shit. He don't care.
I'm gonna find a way to build a wall and have other people pay for it. Mainly you people, all you Mexicans in my country. I can't. You know what it is? He doesn't abide by the rules.
No, he never did.
No, but even decorum, like the simplest, etiquette in anything, he just doesn't have it. For him to be such a high person in the world of finance and just in general, it's like, yeah, he's rich, but he don't act rich.
Well, let's put it this way too. Even when he was president, I still don't think he knows or even has read the Constitution or what it stands for. So, like, the fact that people want some clown like that to run for office again and actually win is insane and harmful for everybody. And I've been saying this a long time, but I'm going to say it again. It just seems with this two-party system, we're never going to get anything done at this rate.
Well, here's the thing. It's not a two-party system right now. It's a one-party system dealing with a bunch of crying little brats who are giving ultimatums.
I can see that. I can see why you said that.
Well, it's just like the Republicans are not doing anything to help the country. So technically, they're not being part of the system. So they're not the other party in the two-party system.
That's
they're
very
just
good.
Another part. And what they're doing is they're doing everything they can to get their way. No, you can't have a justice during a presidential election year. It's like, oh, no, but we'll stuff 6 down your throat or 3 or whatever the fuck it was. And you see what I'm saying? They want it their way, and they're going to try to manipulate it any way they can to get their way. And where they want to go with everything, it doesn't look good for this country.
Nope. Or it's people. And that's what people don't realize, especially the ones that are supporting him still for whatever reason. But it's sad, really. It's very sad because, like, if you're looking for, a future or progress, that's not it. Because you could just look at what the first term was like. Nothing happened. Nothing was passed. Nothing was done.
One thing did happen, and it probably happened again. We had an outbreak. That's what happened.
You mean the insurrection?
No. I'm talking about fucking COVID.
Oh, yeah. Remember, that was neglected for God knows how long before it even came here. And then when it finally did.
It's too convenient. I mean, I know it's, conspiracy theory talk, but it's too convenient that happened around that time. Was it a way for him to try to be like, all right, we're going to make a situation where you're going to be, the guy that saves everybody? And he came out like a bumbling idiot. And they're like, how do we recover from this? But I don't know. I mean, I watched too many movies like Wag the Dog and stuff like that.
It's just pretty crazy because this is an election year. And as it's getting closer, I'm not really sure which way it's going to lean. I mean, I know who I'd want to win because of decency and integrity for the country even. But I hate to say it, if it goes the other way, there's a big possibility this place is finished. It really could be.
Sad to say.
It is. Because it doesn't have to be that way, but it's just amazing how one person can manipulate that many people to thinking he cares when there's so much proof in already seen footage of him not giving a flying fuck about anybody but him and his crime family. You know what I mean? He'll talk about this guy, he'll slander that person. Like, it doesn't even seem like it's a president when he was president even. It seems like a ongoing WWE thing. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It doesn't even feel like normal. Like, this is just not right. Now, I can understand some people, you know, they don't like either of them, and that's understandable too, I guess. But you still have to, like, go for policy. That's what I always tell people to vote on. You can close your eyes and then just listen. You have to go for policy at this point. Don't worry about how old they are, whatever, because both of them, if you think about it, are not that far apart. You know what I mean? So it's not like there's a big difference there. But realistically, the policy is where it is, and that's what's going to affect you ultimately, really. So if you think shoplifters should be shot, that's a new one he was saying. Like, really? This is where we're at here? There's no other way? Like, this is ridiculous. Would a bright mind come up with something like that? No. You know what I mean? Like, it's just stupid at this point. It really is. And we're becoming a bigger laughing stock for the rest of the world to laugh at this point if we keep this shit up.
You know, mentioning getting shot at a convenience store makes me think of a video I saw the other day where this dude's behind the counter doing his thing. You got one dude. They both came in with masks, but, you know, COVID, so whatever. So the guy starts saying something, and then one guy reaches over. So the counter guy goes over to stop him. And the other guy jumps over the counter, and he comes back to the other guy, and he fucking pulls out a blade and starts stabbing the robber to the point that you hear the robber say, I'm dead. I'm dead. And he, like, slacks over, and then you see the guy behind the counter fucking, like, dragging him around. Like, I don't know what happened. Maybe he died, maybe he didn't, but do you think he deserved it?
The robber?
Yeah.
Well, he probably didn't deserve to die, but it's his actions that led to it. I mean, if he didn't try to rob the store, this probably wouldn't have happened. People need to take responsibility for their actions. Just because Trump seemingly gets away with everything does not mean that you're going to too. I mean, ain't that why we got a justice system? And speaking of which, that topic is kind of weird in general, because in this country, the way things work is if somebody breaks into your house, trips, and ends up cutting themselves or, you know, hurting themselves, somehow they can sue you and probably have a chance in winning. I'm not making that up. Like, that's a thing that's happened before. You like, does that sound right to you?
That is a little more different state to state, but I get what you're saying. And that is true in some states.
Right. I mean, that's true too. Not every state runs like that in a sense, but there are still some that do that. So it's just like, it doesn't make a fucking bit of sense to me. It just doesn't.
When you're in the wrong to begin with, you're in the wrong, period. That's where it should stand. It's like, yeah, you were robbing the place. I don't care if you fell and slipped and hurt yourself.
Exactly. Like, if you didn't do a criminal activity, this wouldn't have happened. You know what I mean? Like, but that's how it works here, I guess. You know what I mean? I don't get it. The only thing I will say, in that thing that you just brought up earlier, is the only way, I guess, in a sense, you can look at that guy maybe deserving what he got, is if the person that did it felt like his life was in danger. Now, I didn't see any of that. I don't really know any details about it, so I can't really comment on it directly. But if you are, you know, at a point where you feel like it could be a life or death situation, and God forbid something like that were to happen, I mean, you're not the culprit. You were the one just protecting yourself in the end. Like, you didn't want to have to do that. And if that person's actions didn't cause you to do that, it wouldn't have been done in the first place, and the whole catastrophe would have been reverted. You know what I mean? But fortunately, stupidity exists and things like this happen. And then that is a result sometimes, you know what I mean? Like, so it's a weird situation when you talk about things like that. In the end, wrong is still wrong and right is still right. And that's what this country totally forgot about, I think. Out the fucking window.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, in the case with the robber, I think that, you know, fuck around, you find out. That's
basically, yep.
I mean, it's not like they came in there with candy bars, like, hey, give me all your money. I'll shoot you with this candy bar. They were armed, so they fucked around, and one dude found out. The other dude bounced, left his dude to die, and whatever. He's like, fuck that. Good.
He took off on him? Really?
Oh, yeah. The second the fucking dude got him with like 1 or 2 hits, he was out.
That was enough for him. Yeah.
Yeah, that was enough for him. He probably snatched something and bounced, but like his homeboy did not make it.
Because I feel like the reason why a lot of this chaos and stupidity and these things are happening too is, I'm not going to blame Trump because that's just stupid. But I feel like the kind of message that he throws out there is like, well, he himself feels that he can do whatever the hell he wants, whenever the hell he wants, and it's perfectly fine. You know what I mean? So now I guess maybe his minions are thinking, oh, maybe I have this immunity now too. No, you don't. And he don't give a fuck if you do or don't either. And he knows you don't. Somehow, as where we stand, it seems like he does, but things haven't been going that well for him lately. So that's at least a positive perk that no one is above the law, even though, he thinks he is, which is another topic on itself.
I don't know. I mean,
what do you think, Rook?
Yeah, I mean, I think generally speaking, this country does have a future, but only if people get wise to what the Republicans have been doing. Over the past, I'd say, couple of decades, Republicans have become increasingly without an agenda, aside from dismantling whatever the Democrats have accomplished and, increasing their power. There's really nothing that the Republicans want to accomplish. They say they want to accomplish border security, but they really don't. As you can see with the border security bill that's bipartisan, that is not being advanced by Republicans, even though it's pretty much written by one of the most conservative members of Congress, who has been a champion on the border security issue. Very, not someone that Democrats would necessarily partner up with, but here we are. The bill is there. They say they care about the policy, but yet they don't. What they care about is power and winning and, just preventing things from getting done. When a Democrat is in power, when they're in power, they also, don't really do shit. They may, pass some mean legislation to punish brown people, or they may, install justices to punish women or brown people again. But other than that, yeah, they don't really have an agenda. It's just to bitch and moan about Democrats. That's pretty much, the only thing that you have to look forward to from a Republican administration. And so I think that if America catches on to the fact that, say Donald Trump does get elected again, assuming we survive his incompetency and or dictatorial tendencies, we'll get to see yet another example of a Republican administration that doesn't really care about policy. They don't really care about resolving issues that people care about. And you'll just see them try to undo things that the Biden administration has accomplished, just like they tried to do the same after the Obama administration.
Yep.
And so there's, it's very frustrating because you see this happen time and time again, and you ask yourself, when will Americans learn? When will they learn that Republicans have not had an agenda for at least the past 10 years, if not 15, 20 years? They just haven't. I was going to say,
yep. Yeah, I was going to say 15, 20.
They George W. Bush, ever since he was elected to his second term, I'd say that was when Republicans lost their agenda. Once W went out of office and they were running John McCain, 2008, I mean, they just did not have any policy agenda besides punishing brown people and punishing women by restricting abortion.
Right,
That's
right.
pretty much the only thing that they, of course there's, tax cuts and spending, and they complain about spending, but yet they do it when they're in office. So that's not really part of their agenda. They only do that to have something to criticize the Democrats about. But when they're in office, fiscal responsibility goes out the window. We don't care about that when we're in office, only when they're in office. When we're in office, we get to spend whatever we want and run up the deficit.
Right. It's like deficit don't matter then.
The Obama administration, took the deficit down from over $1 trillion to under $500 billion. That's a substantial reduction. If it continued in that trend, eventually we might have seen a surplus, by reducing the amount of deficit every year. And for those that don't know, the deficit and the debt are connected, but not the same. So the deficit is every year we have a budget, and some of that budget needs to be borrowed money because we spend more than we take in. So when we spend more than when we take in, that is deficit spending. Now, every year when we spend more than we take in and we rack up deficit spending, that amount of deficit gets added to our national debt. And so the national debt accumulates every time we have deficit spending. So Republicans have complained about the national debt, complained about spending, complained about deficit spending, but yet when they get into office, they do the exact same thing that Democrats do, except maybe even spend more. And they even waste it on shit like tax cuts for the rich or war. It's just very
like an endless cycle.
It's very, when are Americans going to catch on that Republicans have no agenda aside from, bitching about Democrats and taking power and keeping it and trying to jerry rig the system to maintain their power or to get it back. That's really the only agenda they have. And a lot of Republicans know this. They know they don't really want anything policy-wise except, maybe to keep other people down or to, restrict other people's opportunities in this country so that because they think it will give them more opportunities because they feel like their opportunities are dwindling. That's really the only agenda of the Republican Party right now. And some people might be on board with that. And if you are, fuck you, but, at least be honest about it. We know that the Republican Party are people with a brain know that the Republican Party, does not, it's agendaless except for, the things that I just mentioned.
Right. And actually another thing to add to that is once in a while when something does actually pop up that would benefit most Americans, or at least for the example I'm going to use, the ones that went to school, Biden has been trying for the past 4 years to try to ease up and help those that have loan debt and stuff. And guess the reason why it's never been passed? It's not due to the Democrats. The Republicans won't pass it. So now when you have something that actually could benefit you in a positive financial way, they won't, nope, you can't have that, sorry. Imagine that. And rarely does those kind of times ever really pop up. But like you said, with agendaless party as they are, they don't care about things like that. That's not part of they don't have an agenda to even abide to in the first place. So God forbid the people actually get something. You know what I mean? And it's just ridiculous. It really is. And it's sad because it shouldn't be that way. But they'll, wrap it up and they'll try to point the blame at the Democrats and say, oh, it wasn't passed because of them. It was proposed by them, but Republicans will not pass it. So if they won't pass it, guess what? You're not getting any help there for those shackles on your feet. You know what I mean? And there's among other things too. That's just one example. But round and round we go, right?
Yep.
And that's all we got for this week, everyone. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the bell icon for notifications. Strange Planet will have new episodes on YouTube every Friday. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.